The college football world is waiting for Texas A&M to explode. We shall see what they've got in store here in 2022. Spring practice is less than a month away. We got Andrew Hattersley on the line to break down the offense, and we will do the defense at another time here soon before March 7th. That's the first day that the Aggies hit the practice field. Andrew, how you doing today?
Good, and it feels like the season just ended, and now we're already kind of getting right back into spring practice, and before you know it, the season will be here. But never a bad thing, as our coworker Josh Pate says, there's no such thing as an off season. So
nope,
we'll kind of roll right into it.
There really never has been, and now especially that's the case with the transfer portal humming all the time.
Oh yeah,
and probably humming especially after spring practice. But we will tread those waters when we get there. Before we went through the positional units on the offensive side, Daryl Dickey's been the offensive coordinator there at A&M since Jimbo Fisher arrived in 2018. So he's had a pretty long run as coordinators go in college football. Just give us a thought or two about his approach to offense, what he likes to do, his signature concepts, and if you think that the offense has developed and grown under Daryl Dickey.
Yeah, so I think the first thing, everything under A&M kind of runs through Jimbo Fisher, and he's talked about Daryl Dickey before, that, he's a guy that, brings a lot of ideas to the table and is kind of a guy that can see things from overhead. So he doesn't, necessarily call plays or do anything like that, but what they've been kind of priding themselves on the last couple of years is a strong running game. I think they'd like to be more explosive, but he just brings a lot of experience to the table. He's pretty good at, scouting quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks right there with Jimbo Fisher. And so while he doesn't maybe have a front row kind of perspective and a guy that is out in front of the program, I think behind the scenes he's a trusted resource for Jimbo Fisher. And he's going to be working with James Coley now, who is promoted to co-offensive coordinator, and the two of them are going to try to kind of get this offense to be a little more explosive down the road.
Folks, we would ask that you like the video, share these videos out on social media. If you enjoy the content, guess what? Others will as well. So help spread the word here at the Voice of College Football. Andrew Hattersley's on the line with us. Texas A&M coverage there at Gig'em 247 Sports. I know I've mentioned this before, but it's just kind of ironic to me that Max Johnson plays at LSU, throws the game-winning touchdown pass against Texas A&M. That's his last pass at LSU, transfers to Texas A&M. So it sets us up for this quarterback battle with Haynes King winning the job over Zach Calzada coming out of camp last year. Unfortunately, just got into that third game against Colorado. So it sets up a mobile playmaking kind of guy, potentially dynamic in Haynes King versus more of a pocket passer in Max Johnson.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with Max Johnson is he brings experience playing the position. And when you look at some of A&M's struggles last year, they had two guys in there that had not played and had not gone through an SEC season. And so that's kind of the benefit that Max Johnson brings, just from a leadership standpoint and what it takes. And it's going to be a fascinating battle to watch. 5-star quarterback Connor Wigman's in there as well. I think just watching some highlights, Max Johnson can move around a little bit. I think he is definitely more of a pocket guy. And then it's going to be interesting to see where Haynes King's kind of grown. He hasn't obviously got a lot of action. We saw him for those first couple of games last year. And he did throw for close to 300 yards against Kent State. He obviously had the 3 interceptions. Now, when you talk with Jimbo Fisher, he'll certainly add that a couple of those interceptions weren't necessarily on Haynes King. But he also showed kind of his elusiveness and being able to escape pressure on a couple of occasions and make some plays with his legs. So, they are two different types of quarterbacks, but I think from A&M's perspective, they're in a much better spot this year in terms of the quarterback position, because you have a couple guys that I think you would be comfortable turning to and having success with.
Isaiah Spiller's obviously an enormous loss. He takes his 3,000 career rushing yards in 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, 26 touchdowns onto the NFL. We hope he does well there. Devin Ashane, we saw him break out against, he's been a player, obviously, for a few years now, but in terms of a national moment, the kickoff return touchdown against Alabama, ran for almost 1,000 yards, led the nation at 7 yards per carry. Set us up in the running back room.
Yeah, so I mean, Devon Achane is certainly a guy that I think a lot of A&M fans are looking forward to seeing what he can do with the kind of taking over as the lead back. There's some other guys behind him too that I think are going to be interesting to watch this spring. You know, with Amari Daniels and LJ Johnson are two guys that both were very, very highly rated as well coming out of high school. Le'Veon Moss is another guy that I think people are interested to see. When you talk about Devon Achane, I mean, he can just absolutely fly. He just clocked a personal best of 6.68 in the 60-meter, which is absolutely super impressive. So it just gives you an idea of his speed. It's way faster than I could ever run. I can guarantee you that. So, you know, he can absolutely fly. And, you know, I thought Amari Daniels showed some good things last year as well in the limited action that he had. And obviously, LJ Johnson had a really productive high school career. So, you know, the running back room is in a really good spot. Obviously, it's tough to replace a guy like Isaiah Spiller. He had been so dependable the past couple of years. But that running back room is really, really deep and really, really talented, just with guys that are, you know, veteran guys that are now starting to take over and, you know, kind of ready to just pick up where they left off.
Got Andrew Heddersley here from Gig'em 247 Sports to break down Texas A&M's offense. The Aggies hit the field under Jimbo Fisher's leadership there at spring practice, March 7th. The spring game is April 9th. Wide receiver's been disappointing for the most part across the board. Anaya Smith, of course, coming back with 47 catches. Then you got a lot of guys like Caleb Chapman and Damon Demas who have certainly shown glimpses and have been on the field. Folks are excited about 5-star Evan Stewart possibly getting a shot. So where do we stand at wideout?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a position that's going to be really kind of, it's going to have the spotlight on it during spring practice. Everybody's, of course, going to want to see Evan Stewart and how he's picking up the offense and where he is, because I think he can add a ton to this offense just from being able to take the top off of defense. He's an explosive athlete, tremendous athlete. And it's a guy that, you know, when you talk about weapons in the passing game, A&M is trying to build to that point. They need, you know, a guy like Damon Demas needs to take that next step, and he you know, he has the ability to do it. He just has to put it all together. Obviously, Anaya Smith is kind of the leader of that room right now, along with Caleb Chapman. And then the other guy I'm kind of interested to see is Moose Muhammad. He's steadily gotten better and better. He's flashed in the moments he's been able to see the field. And I think that's a guy that everybody's really eager to see and see what he can do with maybe more time. And this spring's an opportunity. I don't think there's any solidified positions in that room. I think everything's up for grabs as they kind of look to get more production there and get better.
Huge loss, Andrew, at tight end with Jalen Weidemeyer, one of the best in the business, caught 40 balls, over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. And so where do we stand at tight end? Of course, they've brought in a haul of 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah, I think this is a big spring for Baylor Cupp. He's a guy that was really highly rated coming out of high school and just hasn't quite been able to stay healthy over his first couple of years, but he was on the field last year and looked like he got better as the year went on. And so I think he's a big key in the tight end room to kind of replacing Jalen Weidemeyer. It's obviously a tall task. He was a central focus of the offense. And then they signed 3 tight ends this past year. One is already on campus, and Jake Johnson. He was the nation's #1 tight end. And so I think there's definitely a hope that he can pick things up quickly and be ready to contribute in the fall, along with, you know, you've got guys on campus for a couple of years now, guys like Blake Smith and Max Wright, who are more veteran guys, maybe in the running game, can be serviceable as blockers. Fernando Garza is another guy that's been on campus for a while now, and so is Eli Stowers. He made the transition from quarterback to tight end, and so if they could get something out of him this summer, he could be a guy that could factor in as well. And then this summer you're going to have Donovan Green and Theodore Mellan-Ostrom from Sweden arriving, and I think Donovan Green's certainly a guy that has the chance to make an impact early. Showed what he could do as a blocker in high school, and was very involved in the running game and could be a factor in the passing game as well. I think that room's in good shape just in terms of the talent that they have coming in. It's a tall task replacing a guy like Jalen Wydermyer, and that it's going to be on other guys to step up. You look back at that receiver room and being more of a factor in the passing game. It's going to be on some of those guys to step up. But I think there's some intriguing guys to watch in that tight end room as well.
We're breaking down the Aggies. We always appreciate the conversation with Andrew Hattersley from Gig'em 247 Sports. So you got to join him there for Texas A&M football and basketball coverage there. Again, at Gig'em 247 Sports, talking up Texas A&M. We're just a few weeks away from spring practice and setting you up on the offensive side. We'll get to the defense here soon. Offensive line, that has been a calling card at Texas A&M for years, even beyond the Jimbo Fisher tenure. The unit seemed to get hit with some injuries, got off to a slow start last year, played a little bit better after that. Kenyon Green, one of the best in the business, he's gone. But based on what I see, it looks like the starting unit could be something similar to what was the closing unit from last season.
Yeah, I think that it's obviously in a lot better shape than it was at this time last year. Losing 4 guys is tough. You knew it was going to take a step back. It was going to be the big question mark heading into the year. But they're, when you look forward now, Bryce Foster now has a year of his experience under his belt, and so does Ruben Fothery. And I think that projects a really bright future on that offensive line. Layden Robinson is a guy that, when he was healthy, looked really good and kind of will be one of those guys to anchor that offensive line. So you've essentially got 3 spots locked down. I think left tackle is certainly one spot they have to get figured out, whether via the transfer portal. They still have a couple spots open in the transfer portal. That's been one of the questions on our message board is, okay, we have 2 spots left. Where do they kind of turn to? And one could be the offensive line, but another guy to keep an eye on is Trey Zune. He got hurt late in his senior or early in his senior year, towards ACL, and was just getting back, kind of up to full speed at last summer, and saw action late in the year and looked pretty good. And I think that's a guy A&M's really excited about, and has a chance to kind of be the solution at that left tackle spot. And they've just got to get better production at that position. It was kind of really the weak spot of, and it's just one they've got to address either through the transfer portal or have a guy like Trey Zune step in, and then you hope a guy like Aki Ogumbi, who saw some starts last year, can get stronger and build off that experience he got last year and kind of take over one of those other spots, maybe an interior guy. And then Blake Traynor is another guy that saw a little bit of action inside and looked better as a guard. And he could be an answer at guard as well. But, it's I think that left tackle spot is probably the big key to figure out this year.
And it's a tough ask when looking at the incoming freshman class at the offensive line position to expect them to develop that quickly and be ready to go. And I also noticed that none of the 3 that come in, 2 are top 10 at their position. All 3 are top 20 at their position, are coming in as early enrollees. So you got to think that they're in the development category and working toward 23 and beyond.
Yeah, I think of the guys, I think you can safely expect that PJ Williams probably needs a year. he's got a tremendous upside, but he's got to add muscle. He's got to add to his frame, and he's a guy that I think they're going to be patient with and understand he probably needs a redshirt year to put on weight and get stronger. If it was the guy, it would be Cam Dewberry. And I think he's a guy that has the flexibility to play either guard or tackle. Great size at 6'4", 313 pounds. I think if you look at a guy, you know, with guys like Bryce Foster was a guy that wasn't an early enrollee last year, and he came in and was able to pick things up quickly and be impactful. I think if you're looking for a guy that could potentially play early, it would be Cam Dewberry.
All right, folks, there's your offense on the Texas A&M Aggies team for 2022. We will talk some defense with Andrew soon. Please follow his work there at Gig'em 247 Sports. Subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. We're talking college football with you every day. And please like this video, share it out on social media, and subscribe again. Andrew, we always enjoy the conversation. Great stuff. We will catch up with you soon.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for having me as always.